I always ask that question of the capital side of the world and the home builders. And, are you invested in the newest technologies? And the answers are typically we're thinking about them, we're trying to, but the two-word answer is typically not yet.
Hello, everyone. Yes, it is me again. Jeff is still on sabbatical, and you are still in my care. Now, I was a little fumbly last time. I'll give it to you. I mean, my first time doing the hosting gig, I'm gonna get better for you. Okay, that's my commitment. Is I'm gonna get better for you. But anyway, welcome to Builder 365 podcast, the podcast where we celebrate all things home building. Now, don't worry because you don't only have me today. You have Michelle Bindine back with us. Michelle, yay!
Hello, hello, Miss Amy.
Thrilled, 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 thrilled to have you. So, Michelle, question for
Yes,
you.
yes.
If you could build your dream home
Hmm.
anywhere in the world, tell me where it would be and describe some of the key features.
Okay, well, I don't even know if this place exists, but I would want some place that had temperature wise between 75 to 80 degrees
Mm.
consistently.
Mm-hmm.
No tornadoes, no earthquakes, no mudslides. I mean, no bad weather. I would, no big bugs, no big
No,
bugs. Can't,
no,
can't do big
no.
bugs.
Mm-mm.
And gosh, no humidity because the hair. So I,
What
I
is this
just,
mythical place you speak of?
I don't know. I need to find it. And then, of course, then it has to be near my kids. So if it's near my kids, then it's going to be fine.
All right,
Uh,
well,
so I don't know about the location, but like as far as key features, I'm an exterior gal. I love all things outside. So
mm-hmm.
I always wanted a screened in porch, and I finally have one, and I would never do without it again. I
How
love
do
it.
you use it?
I use it for coffee in the morning. We eat out there. We just have coffee in the evening or a glass of wine. But so just all that as much as I can. When I'm home, that's my happy place. And how about you, Amy? What does that look like for you?
I will go to this mystical place with you.
Okay.
And I'm ditto on the outdoors. You know, I have 12 acres with a
Yeah.
200-year-old farmhouse, which is definitely a love-hate relationship. But I have a cute little porch on my back too, and I love it. It's not screened in, but yeah, I just try to shoo away the mosquitoes as best as I can.
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, good.
All right. Well, I want to give a special thanks to our partner for this podcast. Builder 365 is powered by Open Door for Builders. Easy sales, smooth moves. You can learn more about the work they do to support home builders at opendoor.com/builder365. All right, Michelle. I know as one of the top consultants in the industry, and you're going around and you're talking to people, and they always want to get your opinion. So I'm just going to add onto the pile and just be one more. Because I found a quote that I thought was very interesting, and I'd love to get your thoughts. This was written, I hope I do not say his last name incorrectly because I don't know how to say this. Don Dijkstra? We're going to go with that. Chairman of Bloomfield Homes. And he said, 2025 will be a year of opportunity and challenges. With a new president, new economic policies, and interest rate fluctuations, with AI, the world will spin faster than ever. Can you keep your balance and stay on your feet? What do you think?
Well, I love the quote. I do. Listen, if I was going to take creative liberty to that quote, because this is our show, we can do what we want,
That's
right?
exactly right.
Uh, I think I would just change it to every year, right? Why 2025?
Right.
I think every year we're faced with opportunities for growth and for change and challenges. And but that's the thing about us humans. We don't really like when things change, do we?
Not too much.
And so it really comes down to a choice with what are we going to do with our mindset.
Right. Yep. I mean, I'm with you. I've been in this industry now, I want to stop counting. Uh, low 20s. And yeah, I can't think back to a year where I was like, man, that was an easy year. Right?
Right.
There's always something. I don't know, whether you're sheltering in place or interest rates issues, or you can't get access to the loan portfolios that you need, whatever it is, there's always
Yeah.
something.
Yeah. Yeah. And so we either embrace it, or we go with a fixed mindset, and then we complain about everything and, well, all me, or we have just a growth mindset, and it's still going to be hard. It's always hard.
Yeah.
But on the other side of the growth mindset is always glory. So I'd rather go that route.
Love it. Well, I'm not going to say anything else because that was a perfect way to wrap that piece up. Well, we have another wonderful interview for you. Jeff was super busy before we left, and he finagled. I don't even know how he did it, because this guy, everybody knows him, everybody loves him. He's just wonderful all the way around. Tim Sullivan is the Chief Advisory Officer for Zonda. I think you're going to love this. Take a listen.
One of the things that I love about the podcast is talking to good friends, and thrilled to have the one and only Tim Sullivan with us. Tim, thank you for stopping by. We appreciate it. We'll have some fun. But let's start by telling us a little bit about your career journey in this business. Give us your builder story, if you will.
You bet. Went to college, university at the University of California, San Diego, and I was dead set on being a doctor. And after a year working at a hospital and doing all of the coursework, I realized not only did I not like sick people, I didn't want to be one, I didn't want to work for it. So I took a left turn, and being in San Diego, I wanted to stay. And the only opportunity that was in that world of business was econ. So I ended up as an econ grad. But during that time, I met a gentleman out of Sandy, and Sandy was one of the original market research people. And I went to work for him as an intern, and had by no means a vision of being a professional market research person. It was a paid internship, and I got some credit. But one thing led to another, and I found that I liked it. I got to move around. I learned all the time. I didn't have to sit behind a desk all the time. And I was surrounded by really smart people, and I fell in love with home building. So over the period of time, KPMG purchased us. I was part of the national group at KPMG for about 10 years. And during that time, Jeff Myers and I struck up a friendship. And he, over a period of time, was asking me to come to work with his very small, very new research company called Myers Group. And he said, I've got this great idea. I've got a database that's going to track all these for sale subdivisions. And he was the only one doing it at the time. I got interested. And so this was about 1995, 1996, I dove in with Jeff. And the evolution of our group as we did, I oversaw our advisory team. He oversaw the tech, and were purchased by Hanley Wood at the time, which was Builder365. And that didn't quite work out on my side. I broke away and had my own company. And for a short period of time, in 2010, 11, and 12, and if any of you are old enough to remember that period of time, it was not fun. And my large Sullivan group became a small Sullivan group. And for a period of time, John Burns and I were side by side, and we were part of the same team. And at that time, Jeff had also left the Myers Group sale and started this new thing. But at the time, it was, there was a new name to it. It was Myers Research. I rejoined Jeff. Now it's been 12 years. We actually, as fate would happen, MidOcean, which is a private equity group, purchased Myers Research, put us with the data that Hanley Wood had, and at the time that was Metro Study. And that's where we find ourselves now. We're now a company with 900 people. We're doing, 1,000 studies a year on the advisory side. Our data is all in country, and become kind of a technology company. But the thing that hasn't changed for me, Jeff, is the connection with home builders, land developers, and capital sources, and getting to work with my friends like you.
Love it. Love it. Now let's clear one thing up here. You are a researcher, you work for a research company, but you, and I would also say your counterpart, Molly Carmichael, you share an interesting trait amongst researchers. You have personalities. Normally we don't put researcher and life of the party in the same sentence. So just dispel the myth for us, if you would, please.
Well, part of it has to do with where Molly and I are from. We both happen to come from very warm, engaging, very imperfect Irish Catholic families. And there's a cultural thing associated with that. And for those of you out there who've met Molly before, she is one of the kindest, sweetest people on the planet. She is all about helping others. And I think she and I both share that. I mean, Jeff, I get such joy out of helping people in our industry, whether it's a paid gig or just making connections to help people find new friends, new hires, new opportunities. And the older I get and the longer I'm in this, that is where my joy comes from. And I think Molly feels the same way. And we're very simpatico when it comes to that. And she also has a sense of humor and she laughs very quickly. So we share that too.
Love that. You were talking about 2010, 2011, 12. You've seen, let's face it, you've seen a lot of weirdness in your career in this industry. Which was weirder, the Great Recession of 15 years ago or the COVID era? What do you think?
That's a great question. And since I'm going to answer the question directly, I'm going to say COVID. And going to say COVID because it was it was such an unusual experience to have us just say this to business and this to moving, just to shut down the world on purpose. Where if you go back to 2010, 11, 12, the capital markets were shut down. We had too much housing on the ground. There were fundamental reasons for why that happened. And a lot of it was too much money too fast. But the COVID thing was, to me, the most unpredictable we ever could have had. So for me, COVID was the crazy time, the craziest time.
It's hard to imagine ever going through something quite that bizarre. Again, I don't think anybody would even like to imagine it. Actually, give us a quick snapshot though of where the industry is now, because we at the time that we're recording this, it's going to be a few weeks before it hits, so things change very very quickly. But the numbers have trickled in for the second quarter, and that they're not looking particularly strong. Obviously, we know with a combination of higher rates and higher payments, we've got some real affordability problems out there for our buyers. Give us your take on kind of where we're at. What's the lay of the land right now?
Well, let's hold on to that thing you were asking about COVID versus, the Great Recession. I think one thing I've learned over 40 years in this industry is if it's not one thing, it's another. There's always something that's in our way. There's always something that is a stumbling block. And I'm not going to say this is normal, but I'm asked so often by home builders and capital sources too, what's the new normal? And I almost want to rewind that and say it's normal to have all this white noise in the market. And Jeff, you're as good as it gets when it comes to understanding how to get to a consumer's mindset and selling. And Ali Wolf and I, Ali, she's our chief economist. We're constantly focusing in on the fundamental reasons why people buy. And that doesn't change. That never changes. You have people aging, divorcing, having kids. Kids move out. God forbid there's deaths in the family. That changes that. And that's always going to be here. And go back to when you bought your first home. I know mine 27, 28 years ago. It was 11% mortgages. They popped down to 10. I thought I was making money. Now, arguably, it was San Diego with much lower prices. But I was able to qualify because my mom and dad helped me with the down payment. I could cover the mortgage, and I got a roommate. And from there, ended up moving house to house to house. I think what we're facing is classically challenging. I don't think it's ever going to be easy again. Now, I felt like there was some easiness when we had easy money. Even then, people had to qualify, and there was always a challenge to have enough down payment. So, Jeff, it's constantly focusing on the fundamentals, and people will always need some place to live. And our home building side has to figure out how to adapt and pivot that product to make it more affordable and to build in the places people want to live versus just where we can build.
Are you optimistic about that? Do you think that the home building industry is on the path to be able to figure out how to build not just more homes? Because right now, the argument is we have plenty of homes for the people who can't afford them, right? Are you optimistic that the building industry, the building community can address that, can answer that problem and find a way to provide actual affordable housing for people who can't afford what's out there now?
Yeah, Jeff, I prefer giving direct answers, but this one's going to be a little bit equivocal. Sort of. And here's what I mean by that. The builders absolutely think about affordability with a capital A, and some of them are doing a great job when they look at the bell-shaped curve of pricing, try to stay to the left side, to the more affordable side. But the other part of it is where there available land exists and where we can get entitlements. So those two are not always connecting perfectly. But I will give you a thumbs up that builders are constantly thinking about that. And I see really good movement with newer product. One thing that I think builders are still having trouble with, everybody except for Clayton, because Clayton, of course, does manufactured housing, well, and so does Skyline and a number of others. But the stick-built builders are still, I think, struggling getting the efficiencies in construction and trying to push down the cost side of things. But they're headed in the right direction. No builder has done it perfectly. LGI does a pretty good job of it. D.R. Horton, they can build a nice little box that's affordable, particularly in the Southeast. But I'm going to say they're not there yet, Jeff, but their intentions are there, and it's more than intentions. Their strategic efforts are moving in that direction.
Do you see new innovations come along the line, and the innovators come along and say, this is the future of home building, and you've seen it all throughout your career, right? So here is, panelized wall construction, and here is insulated concrete forms, and, here's 3D printing and whatever. At this point, do you just sort of roll your eyes and say, let time will judge, or are you optimistic on it, that innovation is going to help us attack this issue?
Absolutely optimistic about it. But the eye roll does exist because, all the events that we put on it. And interviews that I get a chance to do, much like you and I are doing right now, I always ask that question of the capital side of the world and the home builders. And, are you invested in the newest technologies? And the answers are typically, we're thinking about them, we're trying to, but the two-word answer is typically not yet. As mentioned, look at what icons, what's fascinating. Wood and a number of other builders are doing a terrific job with panelization, but I'm just not seeing us move as far as we need to yet. I'm optimistic, but it'll take you too long.
Okay. Right. Well, I'll accept that. You are one of the most well-connected people in the industry. Give us a few names of people in the industry that you just thoroughly respect. I'm sure you could go on and on and on, but give us a few that really shine strong for you, and perhaps have for a little bit of time, that you look at and you say, she's got it right, he's got it right. Who comes to mind?
I'm going to start with the sheet, and that's Cheryl Palmer at Tierson. She's a personal friend. I've known her over 20 years. Her heart's in the right place. Being a female running a home building company, I think, is special sauce. She's got empathy, just alphas. And if you talk to her, she's in and she is convicted. I just have huge respect for her, and she's funny. And she's a great interview because she's honest. And I've been with her. In fact, the last time we were together on our Deal Makers program in Phoenix, we were talking about our parents, and she told a story about her father, and tears came to her eyes, and they just flowed down her face, and she let it go. So she's the real deal. Now, thinking of CEOs, I'm going to also go with one that's in Phoenix. Philippe Lord is a fascinating guy. Known Philippe almost 20 years too. Philippe started my side of the world in research, and he's initially a very serious guy, very thoughtful, but he's doing such a cool job with Meritage. And he's opened his arms to the organization, and he is trying to bring in voices that aren't typically listened to in large companies. And it's something near and dear to your heart, Jeff, because it's people in the field and it's the salespeople. But he's been all voices, and that seriousness has gotten him to a place where he's very serious about learning. And I love talking to him about that. Another thing that I should give a little bit of respect to is Jeff Myers. Now, his career has changed a lot, but for those of you who have known Jeff for as long as I have, he's always lit his head up and looked over the horizon for what's next. Jeff, so many times I'm focused on what we have to do right now and our everyday business. Jeff has bought and sold many in the various iterations that Myers and Zonda has been. And I'm constantly pleasantly surprised, some of the things he does. And the big compliment I can give him is, God, I wish I did that. Because he'll say something or do something. It's like, makes total sense. So there's three.
Love it, love it, love it. And I know you could have gone on and on. You have a deep respect for the industry. Tell us, when you think about your job, what are the things that you enjoy doing the most? When you see something pops up in your calendar or on your project list, say, this is what I got to do. What jumps to the top of the list? What do you enjoy the most?
I'll go both personal and professional. On the professional side,
Please.
I love events. And my favorite thing is to be involved in some way, whether it's a panel discussion or I'm interviewing you or you're interviewing me, but it's the conversation that comes out of just being with people that I respect. And Jeff, I haven't done this yet, but I've got a vision for a book that I wanted to write called Conversations with the Crowd. And it's about how to communicate better and extract ideas, not just from a one-on-one, but when you're in a crowd, if you are the MC of a program, if you are leading a conversation, and how to make people comfortable and then, ultimately elicit really great ideas. So, that interaction just turns me on. From a personal standpoint, it's being outside, and I'm a big walker. As I've gotten older and knee replacements and body parts replaced, being outside, it clears my mind. And then I'm off walking. So it helps the brain go. Another thing see just fires my brain is something new. And that can be a new market, a new product, a client, a new relationship. But my sensibilities start to expand when it's something I hadn't thought about before or done before. So, I hope to have that lifelong learning focus, but I get the tilt in the back of my neck when that happens. Another thing, I like the fantasy football and I really enjoy it if I beat you, although I'm not sure I ever have.
One of these years, Tim, one of these years. But I am totally with you. I learning new things. Karen and I are going to France for a few weeks here coming up soon. And so I've been taking conversational French. I don't expect to be able to speak like a native at all, but I want to be able to know when somebody asks me an expected question at a restaurant, how to answer it. At the very least, I want to be able to say, I don't speak French well. Can you slow down a little bit? And so, but in the journey of just learning that, it just opens up my mind, and I think it makes me more creative at work too, right? Where you learn something over here, and you get brain power that transfers into other areas of your life.
Well, Jeff, I'll go back to, I was talking about connections, just the joy I get at this stage of my career. You are great at. And you're great at that in this, if the way that you train, way that you bring disparate ideas together to make something flow, but you also do it in our injury. And anytime I'll be there because I always learn something from you.
I appreciate that. It's very, very kind. Before we wrap it up, let's learn a little bit more about you. I'm going to put you on the hot seat. Rapid fire questions, rapid fire answers. You ready?
Let's go.
Artist or band you listened to most in high school?
Raylan,
Love it. The most beautiful place you've ever stood?
on the edge of Pete Fioretti's house in St. Bart's.
Very cool. A book you read a long time ago that had a lasting impact?
Oh dear. Mark Sullivan's uh, Beneath the Scarlet Sky about Pino Lila. Find it, read it. It is a true story that takes place during World War II and then to modern times. The story about the writer is fascinating, but one of my favorite books. And I also have to throw in Pillars of the Earth by Ken Follett. Unbelievable book.
That whole series, incredible. Those books are so long, and you're so disappointed when it ends because you want it to go on and on and on. All right, complete the sentence. Someday I'd like to travel to
Australia with my whole family and stay for a month.
Love it, love it. And finally, your first celebrity crush.
Oh, well, I'm going to go back to Van Halen because Melly went to junior high school together. That was Eddie Van Halen's first wife. And
Yeah.
it was my girlfriend before she married Eddie Van Halen. Now, just my girlfriend for about 2 weeks. But when you're 14 or 15 years old, that's a long time.
It counts. That counts. That counts. That takes you off the hot seat. Tim, thank you so much. Thanks for the generosity of your time, but thanks mostly for the contribution to the industry over the years, and frankly, to my life personally. It's always good whenever we can connect. Appreciate you spending a few minutes with us.
Jeff, always my pleasure. Take care, my friend.
All right, Michelle. I mean, there it is, another one. I hate to have an ego here, but boy, do we just keep stacking up the big names.
I know. That was great.
I
Fabulous.
know. Tune in next time to see who we have, right? Yeah, okay.
Yes.
So all right, so last time we talked about pumpkin spice, and you and I were in
Yeah.
total agreement, not so much on the
Yeah.
pumpkin spice.
Mm-mm.
But I am wondering how you feel about football. And don't answer yet, because not just any football. I am from the South. And in the South, there is only college football. So, what are your thoughts on college football?
Wah, wah,
Oh,
wah.
no,
That's all I have to
Michelle.
say, Amy. It's a
That's so
sound.
disappointing.
It's a sound. I know you are so into this, but I have to leave this to you because it's not in me.
All right. Well, there's no banter here, folks. Sorry for that. What a bummer. But
Well,
it
Amy,
will give me the opportunity. Say that again.
tell everyone what you're really into
Oh,
in
I
case
am
they don't know.
go dogs. Sick 'em. Woof, 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 woof. Love my bulldogs. All
I
right,
just wanted to
everyone.
hear you
You're
make
too
that
much
sound.
fun. Michelle, love having you. We'll see you next time, everyone.